She read his letters a dozen times before saying yes. They spoke of mountains, quiet mornings, and a life away from hunger and fear. He wrote about stability, respect, and how he wanted a wife, not a servant. After years of surviving instead of living, those words felt like a lifeline. A mail-order marriage wasn't romantic, but it was supposed to be safe. She believed him. When she arrived, the cabin looked exactly like the photos. Small. Isolated. Snow stretching endlessly in every direction. At first, he was polite. Reserved. Almost shy. He shook her hand instead of hugging her, and she told herself that meant he was respectful. The change came slowly. A raised voice here. A sharp look there. Comments about how much she ate, how she spoke, how she moved. He reminded her constantly that she owed him. He had paid for the papers, the travel, the roof over her head. Gratitude, he said, was expected. The first time he hit her, it wasn't hard enough to leave marks. The second time, it was. Winter closed in fast. Snow buried the road. Phone service disappeared. The cabin became the whole world, and it belonged to him. He controlled when she slept, when she spoke, when she ate. Apologies became routine. Fear became normal. She learned how to stay quiet. How to look small. How to survive. The night it ended, he accused her of disrespect. Of embarrassing him. Of forgetting her place. His anger exploded without warning. She hit the wall. Then the floor. Pain spread through her ribs, stealing her breath. She didn't fight back. When he dragged her outside, the cold shocked her harder than the blows. Snow soaked into her clothes instantly. He threw her down like she weighed nothing. If you live, he said coldly, don't come back. The door slammed. The lock turned. She lay there, bleeding into the snow, breath shallow, vision fading. The sky above her was endless and uncaring. She understood then, this was how it ended. Not loudly. Not dramatically. Just alone. She didn't know that somewhere higher in the mountains, a quiet man who trusted instinct more than words was about to hear something no one else did. And that her life was about to change. Pain pulled her back before fear did. It wasn't sharp anymore, just heavy, distant, like her body was already deciding which parts of her it could afford to lose. Snow pressed against her cheek, melting and refreezing in patches. She tried to move her fingers. They didn't respond. Panic flared, then faded just as quickly. Even fear was tired. She focused on breathing. In. Out. Shallow. Uneven. The cabin behind her was dark. Silent. The door that had promised safety now sealed it away. She thought about the letters again, how carefully they'd been written, how kind they'd sounded. How easily words could lie. The cold crept deeper. She wondered if anyone would notice her missing. If her name would ever be spoken again. Her thoughts drifted, slowing, unraveling. Somewhere between consciousness and sleep, she made peace with the idea that this was the end. Then the mountain answered. At first, it was just vibration, footsteps pressing into snow. Heavy. Purposeful. Not the frantic rush of someone panicking, but the steady rhythm of someone used to harsh terrain. Her mind tried to dismiss it as imagination. But the steps came closer. A shadow fell across her vision. Large. Solid. Blocking the stars. She felt hands, gloved, strong, touch her shoulder, then pull back instantly, as if testing whether she was real. A voice followed. Low. Controlled. Almost surprised. Hey! The sound cut through the fog like a blade. Her eyelids fluttered. She tried to speak. Nothing came out. The man crouched beside her, scanning quickly, blood, bruises, the way her body lay wrong against the snow. His jaw tightened, but his movement stayed calm. Efficient. Don't try to move, he said quietly. I've got you. Those words didn't make sense yet. Got you wasn't something she understood. He slid an arm beneath her knees, another behind her back, lifting her as if she weighed nothing. Pain flared briefly, then dulled again as warmth from his body shielded her from the wind. She smelled pine. Wood smoke. Something clean and real. The world tilted as he carried her uphill, away from the cabin that had tried to kill her. Snow lashed at his coat, but he moved like this wasn't his first storm, or his worst. Inside his cabin, warmth hit her all at once. It hurt. Her body reacted violently, shaking as heat returned too quickly. He laid her down near the fire, not too close, not too far. every choice deliberate. He peeled off her soaked coat carefully, pausing when she whimpered, waiting until the shaking eased. "I know," he murmured, not unkindly. "Easy now." He cleaned her wounds without commentary. No sighs. No questions. Just presence. When she flinched, he stopped. When she cried, he waited. He wrapped her in thick blankets, layering them like armor. She watched him through half-open eyes. He was older than she'd expected. Not old, but worn. Broad shoulders, beard threaded with gray, eyes sharp but not cruel. A man shaped by solitude rather than anger. When he finally spoke again, it wasn't to ask her name or demand an explanation. "You're safe here," he said. "No one's coming through that door." Something inside her cracked. Tears slid silently into the blanket. Not because she trusted him, not yet, but because her body was recognizing something her mind couldn't keep up with. Safety. She slept then. Deeply. Not the restless half-sleep she'd known for months, but the heavy, dreamless kind that only came when danger stepped back. When she woke, the light was different. Softer. Morning. The man sat at a small table nearby, carving something from wood. He looked up immediately, like he'd been waiting for the exact moment her breathing changed. "You're awake," he said. Her throat burned. "Where?" "My cabin," he replied. "You're on the ridge trail. Nobody comes up here unless they mean to." She swallowed. "Why did you help me?" He set the carving down and considered the question. "Because you were dying," he said simply. No hero speech. No expectation of gratitude. She turned her head slightly, testing her body. Pain answered, but it wasn't winning anymore. "I didn't hear a scream," she whispered. "I couldn't." "You don't scream when you think it won't matter," he said. "You breathe different." She stared at him. He met her gaze evenly. "I've lived up here a long time. The mountain teaches you things." Silence settled again, but it wasn't empty. "What's your name?" she asked finally. "Caleb," he said. "You don't have to tell me yours." Her lips trembled. "I want to." She said it softly. Caleb nodded once, as if receiving something fragile. "All right?" Outside, the wind continued its low howl. But inside the cabin, the fire held steady. For the first time since she'd arrived in the mountains, she wasn't bracing for what came next. She didn't know it yet, but this was the moment her life split in two. Before the mountain man found her. And after. She woke up screaming. Her body jerked upright, heart racing, hands shaking as if the beating was happening again. For one terrifying second, she didn't know where she was. Snow. Cabin. Cold. Pain rushed back into her memory all at once. Then she saw him. Caleb sat in a chair near the fire, boots off, jacket folded beside him. He hadn't moved closer. He hadn't rushed her. He just looked up and said calmly, "You're okay. You're here." The words didn't demand belief. They waited for it. Her breathing slowly slowed. The fire crackled. Morning light slipped through the window, pale and quiet. No shouting. No slammed doors. No footsteps coming to hurt her. This morning was different. She pulled the blanket tighter around herself. "I thought I was still there," she whispered. Caleb nodded. "That happens." She blinked. "You've seen this before?" "I've seen pain," he said. "It doesn't leave all at once." That was the first time she felt something loosen inside her chest. Caleb brought her water, then food, placing it within reach and stepping back. He never watched her eat. Never commented. Never rushed her. Every small choice was hers again, and she didn't know how to use that freedom yet. Her body healed faster than her mind. Loud sounds made her flinch. Sudden movements froze her in place. When Caleb accidentally dropped a pan, she cried without warning. Not loudly, just silently, ashamed of the tears. "I'm sorry," she said quickly. "For what?" he asked. "For being like this." Caleb's voice stayed steady. "You're not broken. You're injured." No one had ever said that to her before. Days passed. The storm eased. Snow stopped falling. She learned the rhythm of the cabin, when the fire needed wood, when the kettle whistled, when the mountain went quiet enough to hear her own thoughts. Caleb never asked her to explain what happened. And because he didn't ask, one evening, she told him anyway. Not everything. Just enough. The letters. The marriage. The way kindness disappeared the moment the door closed. The night he dragged her outside and left her in the snow like she didn't matter. Caleb listened without interruption. When she finished, she waited for questions. For anger. For judgment. He only said, "You didn't deserve any of that." The sentence hit harder than the beating ever had. That night, she slept without dreaming. The next morning, she stood at the window and realized something that scared her. She felt safe. And safety, she was learning, was dangerous too, because once you feel it, you're terrified of losing it. She didn't know yet how long she would stay. She didn't know what she felt for the quiet mountain man who saved her. But she knew one thing for certain. For the first time in a very long time, she wasn't afraid to wake up. The knock came just after noon. 3 short taps. Polite. Controlled. The kind of knock that pretended nothing bad had ever happened. She froze. Her hands went cold even though the fire was burning. Her body knew the sound before her mind did. Her heart started racing, loud in her ears. For a moment, she couldn't breathe. Caleb was already standing. He didn't rush. He didn't panic. He moved calmly, placing himself between her and the door like it was the most natural thing in the world. "Did you invite someone?" he asked softly. She shook her head. The knock came again, harder this time. Caleb looked at her once. Really looked. He saw the fear in her eyes, the way her shoulders pulled inward like she was trying to disappear. "Stay here," he said. "You don't have to say anything." He opened the door just enough to block the view inside. Her husband stood there. Clean jacket. Cold eyes. Snow on his boots like he had every right to be here. "I'm looking for my wife," the man said. His voice sounded calm. Reasonable. Fake. "She's not here," Caleb replied. The man leaned forward, trying to see past him. "This doesn't concern you." "It does now," Caleb said quietly. She stepped forward before fear could stop her. "I'm here," she said. The man's face changed instantly. Relief. Then anger. Then control. "There you are," he said. "You scared me." The lie hurt more than the truth ever could. "You left me to die," she said, her voice shaking but loud enough to exist. He sighed like she was being difficult. "You were hysterical. You embarrassed me. Come home and we'll fix this." Fix this. Caleb didn't raise his voice. He didn't threaten. He simply stood firm. "She's not going anywhere," he said. The man laughed. "You think she wants to stay here? With you?" She answered before Caleb could. "Yes." The word surprised even her. "Yes," she repeated. "I choose to stay." Silence fell. For the first time, the man realized something had changed. She wasn't alone anymore. He stared at Caleb, then at her, anger tightening his jaw. "You'll regret this." Caleb didn't move. "Leave." The man hesitated, then stepped back. The mountain didn't welcome him. The road swallowed him whole. Caleb closed the door and locked it gently. Her legs gave out. She sat down hard, shaking. Caleb knelt in front of her, keeping space but close enough to matter. "You did good," he said. "I was scared," she whispered. "You can be scared," he replied. "And still choose." She realized then what had really happened. He hadn't saved her again. She had saved herself. And for the first time in her life, someone stood beside her while she did it. She woke up before sunrise. Not from fear. Not from pain. But from silence. The good kind. The cabin was still. The fire had burned low. Pale light crept through the window, touching the wooden walls softly. For the first time in her life, her body didn't brace for what came next. She sat up slowly and realized something that made her chest ache. She felt safe. Not borrowed safety. Not temporary safety. Real safety. Caleb was outside, chopping wood. The sound was steady. Familiar. Reassuring. He looked up when he saw her in the doorway and gave a small nod. No rush. No questions. Just presence. That morning, she packed her bag. Not because she had to leave. But because she finally could. The bag sat by the door for hours. Caleb didn't comment. He respected choices even when they scared him. That was who he was. "I could go," she said finally. "Yes," Caleb replied. "You could." She waited for the fear to push her forward. It didn't. "I don't want to run anymore," she said quietly. "And I don't want to stay because I'm hiding." Caleb listened. "I want to stay," she continued, voice steady now. "Because I choose this. Because I choose you." He looked at her then, really looked. No control. No possession. Just honesty. "I won't ever cage you," he said. "If you stay, it's because you want to." "That's why I'm staying," she replied. Their first kiss wasn't rushed. It wasn't dramatic. It was gentle. Careful. Like two people who understood how easily trust could break. Winter faded slowly. Snow melted. Roads reopened. The world returned. She didn't. She built a life instead. She learned how to laugh without flinching. How to sleep through the night. How to speak without apologizing for existing. Caleb didn't fix her. He stood beside her while she healed herself. Sometimes she still remembered the man who tried to destroy her. But he no longer owned her story. She stood on the porch one evening, watching the mountains glow gold in the setting sun, and understood the truth. She wasn't saved by a hero. She was met by a man who opened a door, and let her decide who she would become. Her mail-order husband left her to die. A quiet mountain man intervened. But in the end, she chose to live.